Welcome. Hello everyone. This is Steve Stuffletto from Erie Community College near Buffalo, New York. And in today's video I want to review some samples that for folding carton that my students brought in as a homework assignment. So this sample here, what I wanted you to know about this is that the substrate can be paperboard, it can be SBS solid bleached sulfate, or it could be SUS solid unbleached sulfate, sometimes called CCNB, clay coated newsback. But this is a foil board. It's either laminated or vaporized. The problem with a foil board is you have to print down an opaque white first. If you don't print down the opaque white first, you get that specular shine back. Okay. Now as we look at these samples, I want you to realize that in these dust flaps we can put targets that the customers don't always see, or if they do see, it's not that obstructive. So here, for example, we have G7 targets, we have the solids, we have this 50% screen tints, and then we got the one color, three color, one color, three color, one color, three color of the highlight, midtone, and shadows. So this particular printer says that they have the targets and the curves here. So let's be aware of these color bars that may be hidden in the dust flaps or tuck flaps. This sample also has gray balance. Again, the three color next to the one color for the highlight, the midtone, and the shadow. Typical register marks here. You can see if you're out horizontally or vertically. This sample is interesting because it uses FM spots, so let's put a magnifying glass on that. And it also uses two spot colors, so you have your cyan, magenta, yellow, black, then you have this purple violet, which is used for the background, and then you have this dark green, which is used for the photograph here. So if I put this on and turn this off, you'll see that this dot structure is not AM amplitude modulation, it's FM frequency modulated. So if I come down here to the screen tints, let me zoom out so I can get a better view here. Okay, here's my screen tints. You can see that that dot structure right there is FM, not AM. Let me zoom in now. So that's FM, not AM. FM, not AM. FM, not AM. This is also FM, and we have a fifth color which is used in the background here. This carton is interesting because it uses two spot colors that are screened with FM, but the four color process is screened with AM. And we do that because if you use more than four colors, you start running out of screen angles. And if you start running out of screen angles, you could get an interference pattern called a moire. The unobjectionable pattern would be called the rosette. So I think that's why they're using FM screening on the two spot colors, and they're using conventional AM screening here. This is FM with two PMS colors, so you got your KCMY with a dark blue and an orange. So they're probably using the orange right in the product here, and they're using the dark blue for the background. Okay, this is SBS solid bleached sulfate. Again, well, this one's interesting. Okay, this disappears. So this glue flap here hides this color bar, and the color bar is printed in FM, but they also have these star targets or bullseye targets, and you can see that there's some distortion in here, which means they have a little bit of a double occurring here on press. Die cut window. This is using FM spots. This is FM screening, very vivid color, but they're using FM. This is interesting. Right in the dust flap again, they're specifying the Pantone color as PMS 186. And also down here in this dust flap, they're specifying the die cutting die, the plate, and the specifications for the job. And then they have a little target here with the month and the days of the month, and they can actually delete the month and the date that it printed. What brought my attention to this sample here was the hickeys, and the hickeys. So hickeys, fish eyes, and donuts are print defects. There's some type of hard debris stuck to the plate of the blanket. All right. This one is interesting because it's 4-color process plus 3 spot colors. You got a dark blue, a dark brown, and a beige, ivory, tan color. And again, they're using these spot colors in the live work, right? And the reason why you use spot colors is because spot colors are more accurate and they're more consistent than process screen tint builds. And again, we can see some G7 gray balance patches here. Okay, this sample is interesting because it has a die cut window, and this window is very thick plastic film, but it's printed with white, opaque white. So this was screen printed. So if I put a magnifying glass on here, you'll see the serrated sawtooth jagged edges of that. This carton is interesting because two things is you can see the embossing here, barely even see it or feel it here, but it also has these EAS tags for electronic article surveillance. This particular one here is an RF radio frequency, and this one here is an AM acoustic magnetic. So this helps prevent shoplifting in the store. This will sound an alarm if you try to walk out without paying for it. Okay, and this carton is interesting because again it has a die cut window with a plastic film in it, but I also wanted you to see that it has a hanger here, and whenever you have a hanger you typically double up the board to make it thicker. Plus this has a very small area of hot foil leaf stamping in here, not even really that noticeable. Okay, this carton is interesting. This folding carton is interesting because it's printed on corrugated or flute. Micro flute is, I believe, E-flute. No process color here. You got a black for the halftone or duotone. You got this blue for that little logo color here. You got this green for the background, and you got this red only showing you there. So you really got to ask yourself if it makes sense to print this in just 4 spot colors, or does it make sense to print this in process colors. But again, the interesting thing about it is that it's on flute. And here's a very large folding carton, again printed on corrugated flute. It also specifies the PMS color here, and sometimes you'll buy the board with the white liner on it and you'll print on it, or you'll print the liner as a C1S coated one side label, and then you'll adhere the paper to the corrugated later. So I just wanted to see if I could identify what process did that. Okay, now for the next couple samples here, if you've been watching some of my previous videos, we've talked about color variation, and we said that we can classify and categorize color variation as being accurate, uniform, consistent, repeatable, and predictable. If you only have one sample, you can't tell me if the color is accurate. If you have 2 samples, now you can compare the color between an A and a B and tell me if the color is consistent or repeatable. So probably more repeatable here, because on these long production runs, we do them over multiple months, right? So let's talk about these. I have a Frosted Flakes here, and another Frosted Flakes. So now what we can do is a side-by-side visual comparison. These look pretty good to me, all right? Here is 4 cartons, 4-color process plus a special red probably for the type here. And if we lay these out, we see some problems here. So this one is very red, this one's very yellow, this one's washed out, this one is close to that. So because we got color bars on here, it might be interesting just to take a look at the densities here. We can see that the packaging, they changed the graphics here. So just out of curiosity, the magenta here is 125. The magenta here is 138. Yellow is very strong though. Here the yellow is 118. Here the yellow is 119, so that can't be a density issue, that's got to be a dot gain issue. And then let's look at this one, which is very red here. The magenta here was 140.